hogwash.
Yeah, and
but you made a good point too. Is that but what the same people who say that God cannot interfere with free will, as if it's supposedly this precious and violable thing in all cases, whenever evil occurs, they still want God to interfere with their own free will, or with free will period, or intervene in human affairs every single time they pray.
Oh yeah. Well,
so. They want a little both. They want to have it both ways. And
that's so fun.
Are they trying to do the effect?
No, but I might have thrown them a curve because now the bottom third's messed up, and Frank's in there desperately trying to adjust it. It's so cute. Thanks, Frank. I like the picture.
Yeah.
Hey, let's. You
got more? We're a little like dim. We're just sort of like. We should just keep going in and out. And
we're just having
like
fun.
An art
this
show.
Is public access. It's live.
You want to hear what some of this whack job Brandon House thinks about stuff? You want to?
Yeah, let's hit it.
Well, he apparently has compiled a list. He loves the Hitler comparison thing. Oh. He loves that. I think just essentially all this little digest is it's a whole bunch of ads for his rallies and his DVDs and other, the AFA and other little Christian groups, interspersed with like 5 articles that he's written, which you can probably also find on his website. And they're all by him. And I wanted to echo something that Tracy said recently in a comment on the AE blog. When I had earlier in the week, I did a blog post, again, spoofing this guy. And she mentioned that, for a bunch of people, or at least for one person, but, he's part of a whole cadre of, ultra right-wing fundagelicals here. It's like for a bunch of people who would no doubt tell you, if you ask them, that they have found in their lives the ultimate in peace and happiness and tranquility. They don't seem very peaceful and happy when you read their writings here. I mean, these are people who are thoroughly immersed in fear and mistrust and suspicion, and they see enemies hiding around every corner, waiting to take them down. They really, really get a lot of mileage out of their desire to think of themselves as victims. And their desire to be martyrs. They really want to be martyrs. But anyway, old Brandon Howes here has come up with, I'm sorry if I keep flipping back and forth because these articles all kind of look alike. But he's come up with 25 comparisons between America today and Nazi Germany. Would you like to hear what some of them are?
Is one of them they're both countries?
Well, you see, that would have been my thought first. Because I'm like, well, what are some of the comparisons we can make? Like Nazi Germany, they had trees. And we've got trees, and they had roads with little cars driving around the roads.
Sanitation. Sanitation.
Oh, and they illegally invaded a country under false pretenses, and so did we. So that's another one that I thought.
Wow. Did any of those make the list?
No.
What have the Romans ever done for us?
Right. But this just gives you an idea of this man's really skewed ideas about reality.
Let's get the list.
Well, number 1, Hitler outlawed school prayer in Germany. In 1962, the U.S. Supreme Court did the same for us.
Actually, no, that's not true.
It is not true at all.
The Supreme Court didn't outlaw school. Mandatory school prayer. School-led school prayer. Your kids can still pray in school. They can still read a Bible in school. They can still be part of Youth for Christ. They can still have their little clubs. What we did was we actually enacted a bit of freedom that says you can't show favoritism towards these religions. If an atheist club wants to get together, if other student groups want to get together, they should have access to the same stuff. And because we cannot possibly construct a prayer that would make everybody happy, then we don't construct a prayer for anybody, so that the Muslim child and the Scientologist child, and by the way, I realize I'm pissing Richard Dawkins off as I say this, but I'm doing it a little sarcastically. I don't think that they're Muslims. So that their religious sensibilities aren't offended just because the principal at the school wants to pray a Christian prayer. Anyway, that was way too much.
So it was all about, so you're saying it's all about fairness towards everyone.
Yeah.
Yes, but Brandon House doesn't like that kind of thing. He said his idea is diversity is perversity. That's a direct quote from him.
Do any of his things actually match up, or are they all as badly mismatched?
Well, let me just give you a couple more here. Let's see. Hitler controlled the church using intimidation and threats. A half-century ago, U.S. Senator and Senate Majority Leader Lyndon Baines Johnson promoted a bill that included an amendment to use the Internal Revenue Service to remove the nonprofit status of a church that speaks against the election of any specific political candidate. So, yeah, you see, this is what it doesn't get.
Controlling the church? I mean, the whole thing was, first of all...
well, they're saying, oh, you like this tax-exempt status you have?
Yeah.
Well, then you can't politicize. You can't endorse candidates.
It's a way of stopping misfunds. If you're going to take money from people, you don't get to then use it to support political parties.
Or tax, specifically taxpayer money. I mean, we, as a 501c3 nonprofit organization, cannot endorse
candidates. We can talk about issues, and so can churches.
Yeah, but we can't make political, we can't say, elections are happening, and this is our guy for president, and vote for him. We can't do that. Yeah. And so, why... Now, here's one that I think is kind of
interesting.
Probably
wouldn't want to, because... Anyway, go ahead.
Let's see, here's example number... well, there's of course the obvious comparisons between the Nazi Holocaust and abortion. Now this one's weird. Hitler believed in reincarnation. So do Christians. Well, or resurrection more precisely, but ultimately, coming back from the dead. So why they would consider that a bad thing? But anyway, he says, he even convinced SS officers that by murdering millions of Jews and other, quote, undesirables, they were allowing them to get on with the reincarnation process and come back more quickly in an advanced status. And then how does that compare to us? Well, apparently Americans increasingly accept the idea of reincarnation as well as good and bad karma. All right, now didn't we just have a report from this church in Missouri where the shooting was? Talking about, again, bad excuses for bad things happening. God allowed the shooting to occur because da-da-da-da-da-da, right? And yet here, presumably, we're being told that Hitler had all of these excuses justifying, why it would be a good idea to kill the Jews, which, by the way, I haven't, I've read up some, I'm not an expert on it, but I have read up quite a bit on, the Third Reich, and ultimately, I think that the whole reincarnation process really was of no consequence whatsoever to Hitler. He just wanted the Jews gone. Right? I mean, the
big thing is that you're talking about. Let's say this was true.
It was about saving Germany. It was about protecting.
No, let's say that Brannon's accusation is true. That Hitler used reincarnation for this. Who's using reincarnation for anything remotely similar in our country? I mean, the fact that
to the extent
somebody. I mean, this is like the atheist claim. Oh, Hitler was an atheist. No, he wasn't. I mean, you might as well be saying Hitler had a mustache. So people with mustaches are bad.
Or if Hitler was a vegetarian.
Yeah.
Or he loved his dog. I mean, so dog lovers must all be Nazis. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nuts. And even if you're right that more people in the United States are accepting reincarnation, it's hardly the dominant or predominant theory. And by the way, you haven't demonstrated that there's anything wrong with it, or that it's necessarily evil. You're just making, hey, look, this happened, it's something I consider evil, and look, something similar to what's happening here, so therefore, watch out.
Now, here's one where I think he probably missed the irony of what he was writing, because he inadvertently compares himself now to the Nazis, not the... where he says, pastors who spoke against Hitler's worldview and his murderous regime found themselves on trial and frequently imprisoned for, quote, abuse of pulpit. In America, hate crime legislation has the potential to criminalize Christians and pastors who speak out against the homosexual agenda.
He's not.
No, again, he's saying, okay, pastors who spoke out against anti-Semitism were punished.
By Hitler.
By Hitler. And now he's saying the comparison in the way things are working in America is that pastors who speak out in favor of prejudice and bigotry against homosexuals are now going to be penalized. So that's what I meant.
Yes, he's admitting his own bigotry.
Yeah, so this little thing is just it's a window into a strange alternate universe that exists behind this man's ears, and a lot of people. One thing I usually see whenever I write about this kind of stuff on the blog or we get emails or what have you, and there's always someone, and bless them, they want to have, they really want to believe in the better aspects of humanity. They don't want to think that anyone can really be this horrible and this stupid and this knuckleheaded, and that it must all be an act. It must be a put on. He's just doing this to sell DVDs to the rubes. And he really doesn't believe all this kind of stuff he's saying. No, I think he does. I think he really had. I think these folks are pathological. They really have convinced themselves of this strange world that they think they're living in. So it's a little alarming, but it's worth kind of knowing what's out there. I don't see that these folks are any kind of tangible threat, but they're certainly a nuisance, and it certainly is the kind of thing that I think really does need to stand up, to be stood up to, and to be spoken out against, and to be challenged every time, because it's very easy I think when a lot of atheists say, oh, well, he can't really mean it, or, you know, guys like Ray Comfort, well, no one can be that stupid. It's all just a big put-up job so that he can, you know, make money. No, I really think that this sort of thing is really what goes on in the heads of these folks. They really do have these beliefs and attitudes and this outlook on humanity. This is what they call their Christian worldview.